What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello.
I'm Farhid.
And this is my buddy, Farhid. And we got one mic set up, so we're going to roll with it, but it looks like the audio is picking up really well. So this is the first live interview that I've done, so
Nice.
Feel very special about this.
I do feel very special. Thank you.
So we should feel very special about this. I had the little setup in the background, so I hope you guys like it. But basically, today you've got a couple things that you'd like to talk to our audience about and share a message about. But we've met recently, probably a year and a half or so ago, right? At a meetup here in town, and we've stayed in touch. And he's actually organized several events where I've gotten to meet some very cool entrepreneurs in Houston. So big thank you for all of those events, and I'm looking forward to staying in tune with that.
No problem, man. No problem. I got you. I always love throwing these networking events and everything because it helps you bring out, not only meet more friends, but also network with people that are in the same field and the mindset as you, and you can always learn something new from them, and it's something to always look forward to. So.
Exactly. And just a testament to that idea is we had a meetup like a week or two ago, and I met a guy there who's doing car detailing, and literally I told him, hey, on Thursday, do you want to come by? I can get you 3 other clients, and we got him 4 cars to wash and detail, interior, exterior, and it was just super convenient for us, but we also were able to give him business. So that's an example of how awesome it is, just making new connections and giving business to people left and right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Awesome. So how about you tell us a little bit about your story and your background? I'd like to share with the audience kind of where you came from, where you're at now, struggles that you've overcome, and, you know.
Okay. I have a pressure washing company. That's my main cash cow right now, but I'm also making other businesses that I've been working on. The main thing that's new is my marketing company, and with that we do advertising, overall general marketing, and web design, everything else, and just depends on what the client has in mind. Another thing is both detailing and cleaning services, and I'm trying to actually change my pressure washing company into that, because with detailing and cleaning you can do subscription based models, versus with pressure washing I clean something and it's good for almost 2 years, so there's no need to really have like repetitive customers unless you're doing commercial work and stuff like that. And another one is called Deal Striker, and it's a like website - app that we've been working on for a while. And with that project, it's been the most just troublesome, I guess, in a sense. We've gone through a whole lot of like hoops and all that to get to where we are. But basically, it's a live reverse bidding system for buying new cars. So let's say you want a 2019 Camaro, right? I take that information and give it to dealerships leads, and the dealerships bid for you for the lowest price. So that way you don't have to go around to multiple places and haggle for the price. The app or the website does the whole thing for you. And there's also a chatting section to where you can directly talk to the customers. So not the customers, the dealerships. So you don't have to just be harassed on your phone, like
getting your phone blown up all the time.
Yeah, constantly. So the app just does the communication, all the haggling and all that for you. So that's the thing we'll be working on for the most part. So.
Very cool. And I remember we were talking about too, when I went to go work out with you over at Roman Iron, we were talking about the struggles of starting off and like being tight on cash and trying to figure it out, right? And thinking that things were going to work out faster than they end up doing. So it's been really cool to see his progress and stay in touch with Deal Striker, and then, the pressure washing business and everything. Poseidon.
Yeah. See,
cool name.
Yeah, man, it's a god of water, so you gotta
proper
name for it. So,
And he's really entertaining, so follow him on Instagram as well, because he cracks me up.
Well, I mean, everything's funny when you're kind of a clown like me, so life's just a lot easier to make fun of, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about like what value do you want to bring to our audience, and what message do you want to talk about? I know you talked about earlier you'd like to speak on individuality and kind of being your own person, right?
So the topics that I think I kind of want to talk about today is just self-awareness and understanding individuality. And I think both of these come from understanding proper problem-solving skills and critical thinking and applying it to yourself. Because whatever you can apply to yourself, you can also apply to the other things, right?
Right.
And problem-solving skills, that's how I view everything in the world. And it's kind of a modded version of a scientific thinking, right? So let's say there's a problem at hand, And let's use a business as an example so it's a lot easier. So let's say business A doesn't get a lot of traction on social media, right? And you, like, that's the problem. And sometimes there's multiple problems too, so you write all that down. And then after that, second step is, okay, what are they doing currently to solve this problem that's obviously not working? So you write the current problem solving skills that are going through that. And after that, you go, okay, what methods could be used to solve this problem? And then you write down your like top 3, 5, 10, whatever methods to solve it. And then you test these hypotheses, and then you go through them, see which one works the best, and keep on doing that until one of them works. And whatever that works, you modify and make it better, and go over it over and over again. And that's kind of how I think is a good method to work on yourself too. Let's say someone has a problem with like financial just responsibility, right? One way to look at it is like, okay, what is the problem? I'm not saving money. Why am I not saving money? Go through what you're spending on, how often you're spending on those things, what things you're spending on. Just write everything down, and then write down, okay, how can I avoid writing these things, or why do I have so many bills? How can I reduce them? Just write those down and actually follow through. And I think the problem with that is a lot of people get to the like solving the problem part, but they don't follow through.
They don't follow through, right?
Yeah, and they're just complain a week later, oh, well, I'm same place I was, nothing's working, life is miserable. Why is everything the same, you know?
And I think it helps to write it down too, because if you write it down, you have it somewhere visible on a sticky note on your computer, for example. You always see, oh, I need to do these things that I wrote down, instead of just thinking like, oh, I'll do them, and then you forget 2 seconds later, right?
Exactly, because once you see them, once you write it down, you can see things a lot more clearly, and things are a lot better to think about, or easier to think about, right? Versus if you don't write it down, I mean, you can go that way, but you have to have some practice writing it down first, so you can think clearly on every single detail of a problem. And that applied to self-awareness, right? I think a lot of people in our time are just living day by day, and I don't think it's just our time. I think it's always been this way, but it's just a fact that at our time it's more evident and visible that people are just living day by day without really consciously thinking about what's going on. And if you have self-awareness of how you're thinking about things, where your thoughts are coming from, and actually digging deeper inside your brain, you can work on your problems, because you can finally identify them, apply problem-solving skills, fix them, and work on them, right? Versus if you don't, everything's going to be miserable all the time and nothing ever changes. So, and I think it's really easy to lose yourself within others, and the reason to that is because a lot of times we empathize too much with other people to where we see ourselves within them, and we think, oh, they're just like me, versus what that's really not the case, right? You may have similarities with somebody, but you're not the same as that person, and that comes to the individuality. And I think that's a lot of the problem with like social media and all that, right? People see themselves or parts of themselves in other like people they're following, and they think that's it. They just obsessively follow them. They think they're friends with those people, but you're really not, you know. And at the same time, they didn't get where they are because they like not really looked up, but obsessively like looked into somebody that much. They were themselves. Right. And in order to understand yourself, you have to understand your thinking process, where your thoughts are coming from, where your beliefs, where your emotions, where everything's stemming from, and then you create your own individuality. Because when it comes to success, I don't think it really matters if you're the greatest at anything at all. You just have to understand how to stand out and be better at that one thing compared to everybody else. Because that's kind of how I do. I'm not really good at anything at all. I'm not good at it. I'm serious. I'm not
good at anything.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm
Why
good
are you here? All right,
listen. I'm not great at anything. So
Yeah.
I'm not the greatest marketer. I'm not the greatest advertiser. I'm not the greatest, like business runner, business planner, or whatever. But what I am great at is problem solving and critical thinking. And I just apply that to fix problems for people, and that's what I get paid for a lot of times. I don't really look at marketing as like a marketing thing. I just look at it as a problem solving thing, and I just solve problems.
Right. That's entrepreneurs. That's entrepreneurship is solving problems for others in the market, where you're able to provide a solution where others aren't sure where to find it, or if you can do it and add more value, that's where money is created. Yeah. And services are traded and everything.
Yeah. But at all of the new like problem solving things and creating the business out of that stems from understanding yourself better. Because if you don't, you're just following somebody else's footsteps. You're not really having any individuality. You're not creating anything new. You're just doing whatever someone else is doing it, and just maybe not that great at it, because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. That's not what you're best at.
Right.
So, and I think one way to overcome that is something my friend Naveed taught me a lot, is to look at yourself from like a third person perspective. So just put yourself in a little bubble and imagine you're outside of it, and then you're looking from outside in, and observe yourself, observe your thoughts, observe your emotions, observe where these things are stemming from, and actually write it down. Because once you do that with yourself, you can also do it with innovation, right? Let's say you have a problem that you want to like fix, whether it's in your business, my business, whatever. If you're looking from outside in, it's a lot more clear than if you're like emotionally invested in it and you're too stuck from the inside trying to work your way outside. What I'm trying to say is that everything that you apply outside the world, you have to apply to yourself first, because you can't, just how you can't really lie to others that easily, you can't really lie to yourself, right? Yeah. You can't really lie to yourself about what's bothering you, what you can or cannot do. You can say things to other people, but you're not gonna, your performance shows, your actions show that that's not really the case. So.
Right. We're all good at giving advice to people, like relationship advice, financial advice. Yeah. But then it's so hard for us to take our own advice, because it seems easy when you're separated from the emotions, or if you're in a bad relationship, right? You see somebody else and you're like, man, y'all should break up. It seems so obvious. But whenever you're in that and people are telling you should break up, it's so much harder because your emotions are tied to it. Yeah. So it's nice, like you said, step out and do that the third person view and say, how would I treat this if it wasn't me involved, right? That's extremely powerful.
Exactly. And once you apply these things and, like you said, emotionally just detach yourself from it, you can think about it so much clearly. And I don't mean it as an emotions or a negative aspect to have. I think they're actually a superpower. Because once you understand these things about yourself, you understand other people's thought processes too. You understand where their fears are coming from, where their drive is coming from, where their anger, whatever's coming from, because you see that through yourself and you understand that through yourself. But until you do that, you can't really just understand all those things. You're just kind of stuck and you're just barely moving forward.
And that kind of goes into putting yourself in other people's shoes too, because sometimes people have different viewpoints on things. I've noticed when other people make a decision, I'm like, what were they thinking? And they saw it as they might have seen something as an opportunity where you saw it as a total unnecessary risk. But everyone is kind of shaped on their past experiences and their backgrounds and their upbringing. So it can be interesting to see that like not everyone thinks the same. So you might be doing something you think is right, where I'm like, what are you doing?
Completely
I would never do that. Yeah.
And that's totally okay, so long as you're understanding where they're coming from. And like, even if you are trying to convince someone otherwise, chances are you probably can't, because they've already made up their mind. So it's like you said, whenever you say, oh, what were they thinking? Chances are they probably weren't really thinking,
or they thought it was okay, or they were just going through the motions. But I think it's important to keep an open mind, even with religion and stuff, for example. I have friends who are very specific, like they don't believe anything outside of their own, but I'm always like, okay, tell me about your religion. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? And I try to understand the different stories and what makes people act how they act based on how their beliefs are, right? So it's interesting to just step back and look at it logically, look at every situation logically, and kind of detach your emotions so that you're not emotionally invested. You might make some bad calls that way. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd rather like go that way, because it does make sense a lot more than just acting based upon anger or acting based upon like what you feel like you should be doing.
Because that's how people do things that they regret, like something that you can't take back, or hitting a significant other. That's like another level where you don't get to go back from giving somebody a black eye in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Or murdering someone. If someone gets upset, that's like next level. But if someone acts out of anger and they don't calm down, or they're intoxicated, that's how people end up making decisions that change their life forever.
Yeah, exactly. And these things builds up, and it didn't happen over time. Right? It's just like nothing to that extent, or good or bad, happens over time. It's all the small little steps that added up.
So going forward from that, can you talk about a time that you had to step back and look at something in your life from a third person point of view?
Yeah, after not really college, because I didn't really finish college. I kind of dropped out of college. I realized that my life was at like a standstill. I was kind of stagnant with how much I was progressing and all that. And I think that rooted back to my struggle with depression that I had for the longest period of time, and probably since I was 12 or 13 years old, right?
Wow.
And it's something that like I just accepted it as a part of me. I said, okay, this is who I am. My brain is messed up, and I am stuck like this for the rest of my life, you know. And I just accepted it, didn't really move forward. And then I had a time where I wasn't really in a good financial spot. I was kind of living at the office for like a little while, and it all hit me one day, you know, like I said, everything that builds up eventually leads
slowly
to
builds
like
up, right?
It builds up to the little pop, and it like explodes. And that's what happened one night. It was absolutely horrible, really miserable, and I promised myself I need to fix this somehow, because I'm probably not gonna go on very long if I don't fix this, right? So I got through that, and I started writing down, like we talked about earlier, all the problems that I did have at the time, like every single one, just looking from outside in. Okay, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, this is what I'm doing, that's not helpful. Went through the whole list. It was probably like 4 or 5 pages of just me writing about those, and then I crafted ideas of things that I do not want from life, and I listed up everything that I don't want to have. And one of the things I wrote down is not being able to afford new clothes, because like I was looking at my shirt and I was like, this shit's
I've worn this
old.
shirt too many times.
I've worn this since I was in high school.
I feel the same. I just wore a
shouldn't.
new shirt for this interview.
Yeah.
Shout out to my girlfriend for
Yeah.
picking it out. But I had the same thing where I'm
Yeah.
like, I just have the same 5 shirts, man.
Yeah, but like it's different when you can afford it versus when you can't afford it. So you're wearing like the same 5 shirts.
Yes,
Like
yes.
it's complete.
It just kind of rubs it in every day. You're like, really?
Yeah, great. You know, like another shirt on laundry day because I'm out of underwear because I only have 4. You know, so all that kind of like, I wrote that down. I was like, I need to be able to afford new clothes, something as simple as that. And then I started thinking, okay, what can I do on a daily basis to fix these things? And one of the things was whenever the bad thoughts or whatever started like creeping in, because you don't really like hear them in, you just kind of feel it coming, right? And then it just digs deeper, deeper, deeper. But I realized if those signs started, I need to react to it instead of just letting it take over, right? And so I like wrote down what things I can do, what active things I could do, what thinking processes, or if it does, like how can I manifest it, take advantage of it, and use it. And over time I just fixed it little by little, and then eventually it did work, you know. And it all happened because I did stopped and looked at myself from another point of view on why this was affecting me, the root of it, like which memories are causing these things, which emotional problems are causing these things, which like I guess trauma, whatever, is like causing these things. And if you don't dig deep enough inside your brain, you don't ever realize it. That's the thing, that people a lot of times lose themselves within other people and the lust of what they could be rather than whatever they are, right? And then they just get hung up on that forever, and they don't ever move. And if you keep doing that, you will be the same forever. You're just gonna have the same, probably similar jobs, similar pays, same growth that you don't have. Everything's gonna be the same. So
same friends.
Yeah, same friends, everything.
That's why changes. They say you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So now that we've been meeting some cool people and getting around bigger fish almost, I'm like, man, that's the guy who drives a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Like when you brought Nick by in our group the last meeting, I'm like, followed him on Instagram. I see a white Lamborghini, and I'm like, I've seen that at my gym.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now we have someone in our circle who does IT and has a Lambo, and that can help us level up to that next step, and we can leverage resources and knowledge and things like that where you know it's possible. Like my vision board, I see those cool cars, I see that Lambo on there, it's all great, but when you meet someone and you know someone, you're like, they actually have yourself. One. Yeah. It validates it and it makes it real. It's kind of like the 4-minute mile, right? You know that it's now possible, and all of a sudden you're able to do that 4-minute. I can't do a 4-minute mile right now, but it's possible.
Hey man, you could. You just gotta like keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Like right now, like today, if I go out, I can't. But I know anything's possible. Mm-hmm. So give me like 5 months or a year. I don't know.
I'm gonna hold your cannibal.
No. That's if I wanted to. That's not one of my goals.
I'm gonna be texting you every morning. Chris, where's the mile at?
Oh man, probably like at 7 minutes at this point.
Hey man, that's a lot better than mine. Mine's probably at like 8 or 9.
Yeah, I was a sprinter, but four laps. That's pretty fast paced.
Yeah, that's a no from me, dog. Just not.
That's a really great story. I mean, thank you for sharing that. I know
Yeah.
it's tough to talk about, and I didn't know that about you
Yeah.
because, I mean, we haven't known each other that well for very long,
Yeah.
so it's really good to get to know you on that level.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a lot of people who are watching this or listening to this are probably in a similar spot where they're kind of back against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
They're not sure what the next steps are. They feel like they're in a corner, and it seems like the hole keeps getting deeper. They might not be in the financial situation they want to be in. And all you can do in those situations is start to make a list. What do you need to change? And what do you need to do to dig yourself out of that hole?
Yeah. And yeah, to do that, like, we goes back to self-awareness, right? You know that you have those problems. You're just avoiding it because it's comfortable to stay where you're at rather than to change your life a little bit and fix those problems. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people, just not just my age, but even myself, a lot of people have that problem. They think where they at is really comfortable and they'd rather stay that way rather than to confront themselves and stop lying to themselves that they do have these problems, that actually dig deep in their brain, dig deep in their thoughts. Because if you can't fix those mental problems or those emotional problems, you're never ever gonna change. And even if you can move on with that, still become successful, one day everything is gonna break down. It will catch up to you.
Right.
So my advice to that is stop avoiding it. Just sit down with yourself, dig deep, and fix it. And fixing doesn't happen overnight at all, ever. It's a long process, but it takes action to sit down and fix that thing rather than to just let it stand by, go on and on and on. So,
right. And kind of like you were talking about, the negative emotions and the negative things slowly
Yeah.
pile up over time.
Yeah.
Same thing goes with taking action and seeing progress. It happens slowly, day in, day out. You stack all the small wins.
Yeah.
And then eventually you look back and you're like, wow, I came very far.
Yeah, exactly. You don't realize that at the time that you're making all that progress, but whenever you look at it a long time, you will realize, wow, I didn't realize that. At the time you think, oh, this is it. This is the shithole that I'm stuck in forever. And even though you're making tiny little progress, you don't see it until the next month or 2
Right.
months or a year. But those little progresses every single day add up to it, right? Because every single baby step eventually leads up to bigger leaps and eventually big jumps, right? And if you don't do the little steps, you'll never get there. You'll just be where you are. So
Yeah, and a piece of advice I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs say, but I think I most recently heard Gary Vee say,
Yeah.
is that everything is your fault. Like, literally everything's your fault, whether it is or not,
Yeah.
or it isn't. Just accept responsibility for it, because then you have the power to change it.
Yeah.
Because if you say that something is not your fault or something happened to you, that's kind of a victim mindset where you feel like you can't change it. But if you accept responsibility and you're like, my finances suck. Yeah, my boss sucks, my job sucks, but it's kind of like I applied for that job, right?
Yeah.
So what can I do to accept responsibility and apply for a new job or get a new certification that can help me get a better paying job or a raise or whatever?
Yeah.
Or start your own business. Taking action every single day, no matter what.
And that's a really hard pill to swallow, what he said.
It
Because,
is.
like, it's so much easier to say, oh, man.
That's not my fault.
Yeah, I can't do this because my boss did this. Oh, well, this guy did this, so I'm stuck here. Or, like, oh, my bank is screwing me over. But really, come on. Like, it was coming, You could have gotten a better job. Or if you don't like your job, you could work out of it, these things. You're just avoiding it.
Right, kind
You
of like
just don't have
denial.
this-
You don't want to have that conversation with your inner self.
Because you're just lying to yourself all the time, and you don't have the self-awareness that you are doing that, so you're not conscious of it. So you're just there, So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have a final tip for our audience on how they can overcome these things other than writing them down and taking action every day?
Yeah. I think the last thing I want to include is that I think self-awareness is the single most important thing anybody can ever achieve, because our lives are like little special prints, right? Even though we are so similar to each other and we are a product of our environment and people who we are around, but at the same time we all have our unique touch. And if we don't find our own individuality and our own selves, somebody else will do, and somebody else will do what we wanted to do. And because at the end of the day, life is kind of like a rat race, right? You have to get to the end, but you won't ever finish the race if you're just don't know what you're doing, and if you don't understand how your mind works, how your thoughts work, how your emotions work, you will be where you are forever, and you'll always be blaming it upon others on why your life sucks or why your relationships are horrible. But the thing is, you can change it, and you're not stuck in that situation forever. You just have to accept that it sucks, accept that you have these problems, and actively work on it every single day to change yourself. So
absolutely. Well,
yeah.
Thank you so much for the
Thanks,
message
man.
and for the tips. And where can we find you on social media? I mean, what's your best website and your best email to contact you? Or if you don't want to share an email, just your social media handles for the audience.
I don't know which email I use anymore, honestly. But like, don't find me on Twitter. All I do is just repost terrible memes. You can find me on Instagram. It's Faruhito. It's Faruhito. And Facebook, I really don't use Facebook. So yeah, just
so
Faruhito.
I'll link it all up in the show notes if you want to reach out and give Faruhito a follow. Faruhito.
There you go.
Faruhito. Is that like your Hispanic version?
No. So when I lived in Japan, they used to call me Faruhito.
That's cool. That's cool.
I just use that on Instagram.
So fun fact, he also lived in Japan. So
Yeah.
How long did you live there again?
Pre-K to 3rd grade.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
a pretty good
like,
amount of time.
Japanese like ethics and morals in my head before we do.
You're like, everything needs to be clean and orderly.
Yeah, like if you go to my house, everything's just every morning I have this is my morning routine. I wake up, I have my like room cleaning routine, and then I clean my like face, body, whatever, and then do my stretches, and then breakfast, and then I get to work. It's just like, if I don't do that, I feel weird, so I have to do those things. So,
that's cool. So fun fact. So I'll link everything up in the show notes, and I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this today. And we'll definitely love to have you on the show again in the future, and we can talk about some more stuff and some more facts.
All right, man. Sounds good. Appreciate it, though.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Yeah.